Favor?
I'm not quite sure if I'm in favor or not, but I have to take a position, I guess, to at least start the conversation. And I want to follow up on some of the questions that came up about the net school spending. 1992, net school spending was established as part of the reform movement. I remember because at the time Mark Roosevelt was one of the authors of the document. We had him come over to the Smith-Baker Center to speak to the teachers back then and talk about the whole issue. What's that? Thanks. Anyhow, make a long story short, at that particular time, obviously there were ramifications of the net school spending requirement because for the first time, cities and towns across the Commonwealth found that instead of money coming directly as aid to cities and towns, some of it was going to be diverted to Chapter 70 money to make sure to equalize the playing field as part of the McDuffie case, this lawsuit that took place back in 1992 that created the ed reform movement. We also explained at that time too that there would be accountability measures, including testing, that would be part of it, but it started very slow. Now it's become very accelerated, very annoying, and not beneficial to systems. However, that's a debate that I don't necessarily need to get into right now. I will tell you, though, that did kick off a number of activities where municipalities or leaders in municipalities got together and tried to find the best way to try to capture as much of that Chapter 70 money as they possibly could. In this city alone, I remember it was not that many years ago that the city attempted to charge off the cost of maintenance of the parks to the school department because they said the kids played in the parks. Those things came, and it was a kind of a wink and a nod in some of these things. And that's why I really appreciate Mr. Hoey's motion about looking at the maintenance of Bedford agreement. Because I have no question, just a few months ago, I think Ms. Doherty was on on the cable news with the city manager. And there was a discussion about the city manager saying that they were charging the school system for plowing the snow on the street in front of the schools. Now, that's not legitimate, I don't think, in anybody's mind. And it'll be interesting to find out what is legitimate and what isn't. But I do want to carry it further, because this is further in the conversation, had to do with the foundation budget. 2 years ago, there was a committee, oversight committee, that looked at this and said that at that point, the state was underfunding public education by probably $1.2 billion. If you talk to Eileen Donahue, she will probably tell you it's double that, if not triple, at this particular time, because of all the additional mandates coming down by DESE, including additional testing, requirements for technology in order to push the testing, which happens to be, the commissioner's sort of favorite, since he was on the board of PAC Publishing, that's making a fortune on the testing model. But the fact of the matter is, you got to be aware that that costs money. And I have no question that in many ways, probably the estimate here is overstated. But even if it's not, is the funding that we're getting sufficient for the job that we're doing? And I would say no, absolutely not. The state recognizes, and this group, the oversight committee, recognized very early, and strongly, that there was a major underfunding component coming from the state, and we rely on that state money, which means someone needs to make it up. Now, I'm very, very proud of what we do in Lowell. When you turn around, when I go to the different places, I go to, national conferences down in Washington with AFT, I talk to my colleagues from across the country. They look at Massachusetts as really the pearl. And then we explain that 2/3 of our schools, for the first time in our history, are level 1 or level 2. And I have some real problems with the leveling component because it relies too much on test scores. But the fact of the matter is, if that's the matrix they're going to use, then we're doing well. 2/3 of our schools are level 1 or level 2. I was proud 5 years ago when we got to a point where it was 50-50. Right? 50% were 1 and 2, and the rest were C. But we're making this kind of budgeting decision by the city. It's out of your hands in a lot of ways, and it's unfortunate. In a lot of communities, the school committee and the superintendent put together a budget. and then they submit it to the city manager and the city council. Here, it's the other way around. You're told how much money you have to use. And because of that, in the past, the funding for the schools has been erratic at best, using the school department coffers as the piggy bank to hold money or take it away in a whisper. This year, $3 million. Not right. I'm asking you to advocate for the school department. You're the elected officials for the school committee. And I understand some of you have certain loyalties and so on to the city. I mean, that we understand all of that. But the fact is, this budget is not sufficient. We should not be looking at cutting positions that could be considered valuable, particularly in some individual schools. Would you be happy, or the public be happy in this city, if we told our teachers, you know, don't worry about level 1 or level 2, just shoot for 3, because that's the average out there? Would we be happy to say to our kids, hey, don't put too much effort into this thing, get a D, that's all you need to pass? Of course not. So if we're going to expect our schools to excel, and they are excelling, then we need to be able to back them in the activities of the practitioners that work every day in those schools. We have to be able to have the resources to continue that good work. And I'm asking you, as the representatives of the public, of our schools, to go to bat. Go to bat to the city council. I think you might find more people on the city council in support of additional funding for the schools, perhaps than even the city manager. I'm glad the motion passed, Mr. Holly. It gives us a chance. Transparency is extremely important in determining really how far they are, if they are indeed paying more than what the net school, you know, numbers are numbers. But if something can be attributed as an expense of the school system and not really be the focus of it. I mean, we had 2 plumbers that were on our payroll. How absurd was it to have 2 plumbers on the payroll and have the city telling them what to do every day? The intention was to get immediate relief for issues that we needed in our schools. All I'm simply saying is, why not? I'm asking you, and I'm asking you for the 2,000 employees of the school system, or a little over that, demand. I'm going to demand of you. I'm going to do it in a nice way. But I'm all the time, exactly, Mr. General. But the point is, we need to advocate for our schools if they're going to continue to be good schools. We have to advocate for reasonable, treatment of our employees. Do I have it, there's something wrong with this thinking that we're talking about a potential tax increase for the first time in a number of years in Lowell? And that whatever that number is, all the money is going to the city side and not the school department side, even though 2/3 of the budget of the city of Lowell is for schools? How is that reasonable? How is it reasonable there would be a tax increase, and yet the entity that really has about 2/3 of the budget, and certainly 2/3 of the employees, wouldn't benefit from it at all? There's something wrong in the thinking. All I'm asking you to do, and I'm sure other teachers will ask you to do that, other teachers and other school employees will ask you to do that, to take that responsibility seriously, and don't put it maybe in the future, maybe even now. Put the budget together that you think you need. Fight for that budget. Let the city manager and let the city people and the city council tell you they can't do it. But at least as a discussion, at this point we make it too easy, because all you do is have a number and you try to accommodate that budget that's being told you, which this year alone was cut by $3 million, as articulated earlier. It's not fair. It's not right. Now, there were some cuts that were made at the end of the fiscal year, where the superintendent, where the city manager did get $600,000, but he also tried to get $2.4 million that had been encumbered but not spent. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for fighting that battle. Saved us $2.4 million that went into technology, if I remember right, in that expenditure primarily. I'm talking about asserting yourselves as elected officials who are here to protect the interests of the schools. I'll be glad to be an ally, or I'll be glad to remind you of this again and again. Thank you.
Thank you.